Welcome everybody to 1 hour of miniature goodness, and today we are on Mantic Games. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Martin from Mantic Games for sending me these beautiful miniatures to review and paint and just do what I please and enjoy. Anyway, so today we have goblins and we have some ogres. So can everybody hear me in chat? Is the sound okay? Anybody? Yay! Loud and clear, awesome. Okay, I'll say hello to people in chat so far. We've got my Scorpler, Casper Kenobi, we have Nathan in chat, Ty's in chat, Michelle's in chat, blah blah blah. Eric, hello Eric, hope you're doing well in all the snow and things over there. Bull GM, Goblin Squire. Okay, you just all carry on and I'll jump into these awesome miniatures. As you can see, my table is full of goodness tonight. Now, I've got the Goblins from Mantic Games. These are the new hard plastic. They were released in 2020, so I'm going to show you the sprues first of all. Let's see if we can get some focus in here. So get some close up. I don't know. There we go. Now each sprue comes with 10 goblins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 10 goblins. And each sprue has multiple parts to use for your goblins. You've got bows and spears and clubs. You've got quivers, shields, multiple types of heads. So it's an unlimited amount of different types of goblins you can make for your games. Now, these goblins can be used for Kings of War. They can be used for Vanguard. Personally, today I am going to be using them for my Dungeon Saga games. Now, most of you probably know that Dungeon Saga is my go-to game. It's my favourite dungeon crawler game. Now, if you haven't checked out Dungeon Saga, you can buy Dungeon Saga from their website, the Mantic Games website, or you can get it from Mighty Lancer Games. Now, Mighty Lancer Games, as you know, if you are a patron of mine, you get 10% off all their products. Now, they stock all the games and all the miniatures, everything from Mantic Games. They have a huge selection, so it's well worth checking them out. And they are a UK based company as well, and of course Mantic Games is also a UK based company, so it all works in your favour. Now, for these little goblins today, let me see if I can get a nice close-up shot. I'm going to zoom in now that you've seen all the goodness there. We'll see if we can get some focus, and I'll start showing you how awesome these little gobos are. Let me just get some focus in. There we are. They're very well sculpted. Scorpler was busy sticking these all together for me. They're absolutely beautiful. Beautiful little goblins. Now, they have I think it's a retail price of about $19.99, and of course, if you are buying your miniatures from Mighty Lancer Games, you'll get 10% off that price. Plus, they are also cheaper to buy in the UK anyway, as a small business. So we've also got goblins with shields, swords. These are beautiful goblins. I mean, they got the long nose and the ears, the pointy chin. They're kind of your classic gobos, you know. Scorpler loves sticking my miniatures together. Now, what I've done with these miniatures so far is I have given them an undercoat of brown. Now, I've done that because I'm going to paint up some green goblins today to show you. But if you paint up your miniatures with an undercoat like brown, they show up better in camera, so you can actually see the miniature better, rather than if I showed you the grey. The grey is a bit too dark. But if I paint them with the undercoat, you can actually see the miniature better on screen. So you get all these little doggos as well. Now, this is all from like one sprue. It's absolutely fantastic. So you can really build up an army quite cheaply. Now these miniatures do come on, you can have the 20mm bases that they come with. The 20mm bases are these ones. Now lots of Kings of War miniatures, Vanguard miniatures, they come with round slaughter bases which fit into these circles. These goblins don't have the circles, so what I normally do, I'd stick the base upside down and just have them on this side of the base like so. But we're not going to do that today because like I told you before, I love my Dungeon Saga games. So what it is, I've got flagstone bases. Now flagstone bases are pre 1-inch bases, again from Mantic Games. And I buy these by the bucket load because I use them in all my Dungeon Saga games and all my D&D games, because everybody knows I am old school. I prefer the old square bases. These are the bases. They come, like you say, flagstone bases. All you have to do is give them a nice little paint up, and they look absolutely fantastic. And of course they're 1-inch square, so they'll not only will they work in Dungeon Saga, they'll work in your Pathfinder games, they'll work in your Dungeons and Dragons games, because it's all your 1-inch grids base gaming system. Also, for the flagstone bases, you get the 2x2-inch, again perfect for Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeon Saga, and your Pathfinder games. And I absolutely love these bases, so I do buy a lot of those bases and use them for my miniatures. So let's carry on back with the gobos. Yes, these are the, like I say, Hamish. These are your hard plastic gobos. These are the new 2020 editions, and I have to say they are absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I am going to be sticking these onto my flagstone bases, and they will be used in my Dungeons and Dragons games, but they'll be for my Dungeon Saga games. And they would just look absolutely amazing. I know a lot of people prefer to use the round bases, but being old school like I am, I prefer the old. I don't want to say it, but I call it the Warhammer bases, where you're using your square bases. Let's see what else we got. This is a nice one. I mean, these are really, really nice. I got ink all over my fingers. I did wash my hands before I started the show. I swear I did. What's that about the 25mm square? I was saying 1-inch. Nath? Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder is 25mm. Yeah, and of course with the Kings of War. These bases are 20, and also for the larger miniatures they use these boards. These are little 2mm MDF 40mm boards, and they're used for the ogres, but I prefer to have them on the 2-inch bases, which is your 50mm. When you go into all the game systems it can get a little bit confusing, but an inch is 25mm. Oh. Oh my god, seriously, you guys. You're gonna go for that 0.4mm. Oh my god. Okay, I'll forgive you, but you all know you all know what I'm trying to get at, don't you? Oh my god. Okay, let me show you some of the ogres. Now, this is the little box set I had over here. This is the Kings of War Vanguard, and it comes with 8 miniatures, the Ogres warband set. You get 1 miniature in the middle there, which is this one, and it's in resin. It's absolutely gorgeous. Let me show you this one first. The actual detail and sculpt is absolutely beautiful. Really, really nice. Mantic Games, I think every year Their sculpts are getting better and better. I mean, you've got gold pouring out of the back there. You've got all these little scrolls coming out of the backpacks. It's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful miniature. And of course, you get these little bases that you can actually put your miniature on for the game Vanguard. Also with these sets as well, you get all your cards. Now the cards are for use with the game, and these are all your ability cards, faction cards, and everything that comes with the Vanguard game. Now I backed the Kickstarter of Vanguard, so I have most of the factions and most of the games. Vanguard is a skirmish game, so it's played on like a 2x2 foot board, and it's a more simpler game to play than having like a large battle like Kings of War. It takes a couple of hours and you can have a nice little game with your partner. So highly recommended as well. Let me show you some more of these ogres. So these are the ogres. Now you get 8 in the box. Again, they come with multiple heads and arms, so you can have them in an unlimited amount of poses, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, Mantic Games miniatures are what I'd call affordable gaming system. Of course, I don't really want to talk about Games Workshop, but I will say that compared to Games Workshop, these are much, much cheaper. And that's why I say they're affordable, because they are what I call an alternative gaming system with affordable miniatures. And that is the key for Mantic Games, is they are trying to give us a cheaper gaming system that we can all afford, because not all of us can afford Games Workshop. I certainly can't. Now this is a champion ogre. I haven't painted this one brown, but you can just about see him there. Hello, Carlos. Here is our champion ogre. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, let me just check the time. I don't want to waste my hour. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I am going to paint up a couple of goblins, so you can see how fast and easy it is to paint your gobos up ready for gaming. So let's get the camera into a position that I can see what I'm doing. We'll just take the 5 goblins here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll just move all that over there. And go down, see if we can get some focus. So we can see what I'm doing. There we go. Right, if I just gonna work out the camera angle so you can see what I'm doing. Give me 5 seconds. Get some focus in there. Everything's manual, so you have to forgive me for. There we are. That's how we'll work like this. That'll be perfect. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to use these. I'm going to use these 25.4 millimeter bases for my goblins. Now I'm going to stick the goblins with some Loctite super glue. What do you mean? No, they're not the 25 millimeter. Now you just said you just told me they were 25.4 millimeter. They are. Yeah, these are an inch. These are an inch. These are an inch. I hate you all. Oh my god. You just wait till you're all in Discord later. There's going to be trouble. Okay, I'm just going to quickly stick these goblins to the bases here. Just using the super glue. Just a little drop of... thank you for following, Maple Sheepy. I'm just gonna stick some little drop of super glue to the feet of our little goblins, and I'm just going to stick them to the middle of this 1-inch base. What we're going to do today is I'll try and get all the skin tones done on these gobos. Let me see. There we go. Just for this one part, I'll zoom out again. When I start painting, I'll zoom in again so you can actually see what I'm doing. But I definitely prefer having these beautiful little flagstone bases, especially for my Dungeon Saga games. You're going to stick today. Gonna stay there? No, you're not. Go on, take your time, take your time. Take your time, we've only got an hour. There you go. Hello, Mrs. Touch. What it is the Dungeon Saga minis. They are all-in-one miniatures, and they are normally stuck to the base. So that is the only problem with these little bases, is you get these little holes. But I'm going to show you in a second what I do with those. So it's not a huge issue. The actual flagstone bases, in my opinion, are still the best bases you can get, because they are perfect for any dungeon system. If you've got any dungeon games, using these little flagstone bases are just awesome. Okay, like I say, I'm just putting a tiny bit of super glue on the little toesies of our goblins. There we go. And I mean, I must have painted. I must have about 200. Maybe I must have about 200 Dungeon Saga miniatures all painted up now. The Goblin box, the Ogre box or the Goblin? Yes, that's it, Michelle. Yes, these Goblins at the minute on the Mantic Games site, it's 20 Goblins for £19.99. Now, of course, you'll get them cheaper from Mighty Lancer Games with your 10% off being a Goblin, being in my Patreon, of course. So it works out just under a pound a mini, which is nice. Okay, so there's our little 5 gobos, already looking absolutely beautiful on their little bases. Now, I did see you mentioning about that little gap. Again, here we are with my Veleco plastic putty, my go-to plastic putty. This is the same as the 2-part epoxy mix or the Green Stuff World, but it's a liquid form like toothpaste, and it is absolutely amazing just for small gaps. It's not good for big gaps, but just for like filling in like little holes here. Let's go back into our focus so you can see what I'm doing. There we are. And this is absolutely essential for any modeler, and all you do is you use one that's open. There we go. I was trying to squirt something out of a sealed container. That doesn't work, by the way. Don't try that at home. Now I know Mantic Games does have dealers in the US, definitely for sure. So there we are. instantly filled up just with this little plastic putty. It's great for all gaps. And we just fill it in. And of course Renegade Shank keeps me in supply with the plastic putty. So we just fill in those little gaps there. Very simple. There we are. One more. So that's all our goblins. They are ready for painting. I've added a lovely little base coat, or a primer coat as you want to call it, to my miniatures. I like using my MSP colours, Army Painter, Veleco, Games Workshop. It doesn't really matter which acrylic you prefer. I am a lover for MSP paints, so I'll be using MSP. Now my primer colour is a nice dark brown. This is wood stain brown, and most of you probably know already. Now this is my favourite brown for all my miniatures. It makes the perfect colour for your initial browns for all your goblins. In fact, most miniatures, because you've got a nice dark colour. It's not black. It gives a good shade underneath all your paints, so it works really, really well. But for our goblins today, we're going to start off with a darker colour. So we have Naga Green. I won't go and explain all the different colours names because most of you won't know unless you're a huge Reaper fan. So what we're going to do is go in for a dark green to begin with. Hello Mighty Lancer Games, I have been talking about you. And I've lost my pokey stick. There it is, little pokey stick. Right, I'll try and find some space on here. So I'm just adding some of that darker green. It's actually looking very bright, that one. I might actually have to darken that off. What I'm using for my goblins is normally 2 to 3 tones of different greens. So I've got some lighter green there, darker green. And because we're using that brown primer, that will darken off the first coat anyway. So I'm just using a little masterclass brush. Again, you can get all these items from Mighty Lancer Games. And we shall have a look-see at the miniature. And you see you've got the ears, big nose, and let's make a start. And what we're going to do is just plough into this one and get some green on this miniature. Goblins are absolutely fantastic to paint. And the reason why goblins, or any monster, is good fun to paint is because unlike when you're painting a human, when you're painting a monster, you can get away with a lot of things because we know what humans look like. And we know what skin looks like, we know how it should look like. When you're doing goblins or any type of monster, as long as you've got the lighter gradients going on top of the initial coat, it works really well. You can get away with a lot if you make mistakes. Because it's all fantasy. Nobody really knows what a goblin really looks like. So you can actually use any colour scheme you want for a goblin. You can have a pink goblin, you can have a blue goblin, you could call it the Smurf goblin. But it doesn't really matter what colour you paint your miniatures. There's no strict rule. Of course, I paint my goblins green, always have done. Now, because we've got that lovely brown undercoat as well, we're using that we're using that brown to give shade to our green already. So all we're doing is highlighting on top of that brown, and even the brown come through in certain places, like around the eyes and around the mouth, and that saves us a lot of time as well when we're painting. Yes, it is. That's what it is. Ty, it is looking fantastic already, because that brown just works. The brown is working for that goblin, and just by adding that green on top, it just works really, really well. So anyway, we'll get this skin on, and this green. And this is why having that darker undercoat works really well for painting goblins and this such. If I painted a white undercoat on these goblins, it would look too bright. We want our goblins to look evil and nasty, and of course dark works for that. Like I say, I'm just flying through these. I will be touching them up later and making sure that they're all nice and neat. But what we're doing is we're just getting that green on into the places we want it, because all the areas will be going over with paint. So it doesn't matter if you make mistakes, of course, because you will be going over. But the green is the lightest colour we are using on this goblin. All the other colours that we use on the goblin will be dark colours. So if you make a mistake and get any green on any other parts of this miniature, it's a lot easier to fix it, because you're going over the rest of the miniature with a darker colour. Is Gareth in the house? Hello, Gareth. Must be your bedtime. Almost. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you the skin on these goblins, and then I'm going to show you how I do the swords. I posted a Twitter post today of my demon lord I painted, and I've been experimenting doing different things with swords and metal, so I think it works really well, and it's just a really fast way of doing things. So I'm going to show you as well on these little goblins how I do that. These goblins as well, they are quite easy to paint. They're not too difficult. They've got lots of detail, but the paint really goes on well to the miniatures. When I was adding the primer coat earlier, there is no pooling or anything. It went directly on. I mean, you know yourself, when we do our bones miniatures, we have to wash those miniatures, otherwise the paint starts pouring off the mini. But I've had no problems with these. I didn't have to wash them or pre-soak them, so that was good. I'm so used to washing all my miniatures now. It feels weird not to. Hello, Princess 27. And Mokai. Hello, Mokai. Mokai is a big Conan fan. Again, if you are new to my channel, I have a private Discord channel for all my Goblin patrons, and I run a Conan Exile server, and anybody that's in the Goblin army, it's all free to join, and it's an absolutely fantastic thing to do. And what I do on my Conan Exile server is I add treasure hunts to the actual game. So anybody that's on the server playing, and I think there's over 20 goblins on the server at the minute, and they're dedicated to the game and they love the game. But what I do, I add painted miniatures, Reaper miniatures. Doesn't matter what miniature it is, but I add a painted miniature, and I hide it in game by putting a little sign in the Conan game, and I leave clues for in the world of Conan. And of course, whoever finds the sign and takes a photograph in game next to the sign, they win that miniature that I've painted, and I send it to them. And so far, I know Corey's won a few. Mokai won a little dragon. Hopefully, it should be with us soon. So it's, and Michelle, of course, she loves. Michelle is the ultimate Conan. The Conan Queen, I'd call her. I tell you what, Conan is an absolutely fantastic game. If you've not tried playing Conan Exiles by Funcom, then you're missing out on a really good, fun game. You got it today? Oh, fantastic! little purple rocky dragon she got. And she worked so hard for that, because that was the one I hid up the tree, wasn't it? Okay, so last one. So we're just going on to the last skin on this one, and then we'll move on and we'll just let the skin dry a little bit, and we'll add that second layer of skin, the second highlight, shall I say. And like I said, because we've got that brown underneath, that is working as a highlight too. But yeah, I'm really enjoying these miniatures. Mantic Games do have a lot of fantastic miniatures. I've got the Kings of War miniatures, but like I say, Dungeon Saga, and if most of you know me, the Dungeon Saga has always been my game. With Dungeon Saga, it's you can make your dungeons up. They've done it in such a way that you can make your own campaigns, and also you can play it solo, so you can actually build your dungeons and actually play the game by yourself, which when you're in lockdown you don't get much choice. Did I miss all the little toes? Oh no, they got boots on. There we go, little booties. I got there's a treasure hunt at the minute on my Conan Exile server, and it's to win the Tree of Despair by Reaper Miniatures, and it's a fully painted tree with the Tree of Woe as from Conan Exiles the film, but Reaper Miniatures actually made one called the Tree of Despair, which is based roughly on Conan, and that is the treasure hunt in the game for all my Goblin Exiles to find. So they've all been going crazy trying to find this hidden treasures. Give us a clue! Give us a clue! No. Okay. Right, so our first coat is dried on this one. So what we're going to do, we're going straight into that lighter colour. As you can see, these are beautiful little gobos. Now for the second colour, we've got a lighter green, and all we're doing is highlighting the highest areas of our gobos. So of course, his big nose, we just go on the top of the nose, bum bum bum, top of the ears, bum bum bum, just on the chin there, top of the fingies, and on the cheeks as well. So tiny bit on the cheek, one there, and on the other side. Now, so once this paint dries as well, it kind of blends in a bit better. At the minute, because it's wet, it looks very shiny. Once it's dry, it'll blend in with the rest of the mini. With just the tips of the fingers there, very simple. Bum bum bum, and we're done. And that's roughly all you need to do. If you find his other ear, which I've forgotten to paint, that's not good. Let's go back into the first colour. Oh, drop the mini instead. There we go. We'll go back to that one because his ear is now wet. Thank you, Asmo. They are absolutely beautiful goblins. Absolutely gorgeous. They're really, really, really nice. Again, so we're on to our second highlight on the face now. Again, it's very simple. We're just going across the top of the nose, top of the ears, and by doing that, we're giving a nice shade to the rest of the skin. And we're just highlighting the cheekbones. Thank you for following, Life. And again, the top of the ear on the other side. And just finally on top of the hand, so we've got the little thumbsy there, little fingsy, fingies. And I'm using the same brush for everything. This is just a little masterclass brush, Kalinsky Wargamer from Army Painter. And it's around £5 or £6 for this brush, but it's got a nice thick stem on it, so for my thick hands it works really well. And it's not an expensive brush, but it really does the job very well. As you can see, I'm just highlighting all that now, and I've even done the little tiny fingers, and it's come out really well with a simple little brush. Army Painter are definitely my go-to brushes. I think everybody knows that. The key is to keep washing your brush as you go through the goblins. Because we're using such a small amount of paint on our brushes, it dries very rapidly on your brush. So we try to keep our brush clean and moist, and it does help. And again, onto the nose, onto the little ears. And the reason why we just do the tops of everything is because it's almost like a light source. I always work my miniatures, so I imagine there's a light source shining down on that miniature. So the underneath of the miniature is always dark, and the top is always lighter. It's just a good way to think about when you paint your miniatures. Every time you paint a miniature, just imagine there's a sun or a light right above the head of your miniature, and that way you know each part raised is going to be light. Like on my hat, you can see my hat is glowing because the light source is shining off the top of my hat. So it's the same with these miniatures. You want the top parts of the miniature to shine. Like if I go like this, my little nose is shining because the light is going down onto my face. My cheeks are white because of the light source. So we try to work that onto our miniatures, and that is just simply by using a lighter shade on the nose, on the ears, on its little toes, etc. The little toes, we're just going to add a little bit of green. It could almost be his toenails. And again, a little bit on the fingers, on the knuckles there. Just a tiny bit. It's very simple. You're friends with Mokai, are you? I didn't know Mokai had any friends. Nobody likes you. It's really, really nice when we all come together. The community is just amazing. I think you're all absolutely amazing. See, I've forgotten to paint this one's ear as well. I got a thing about missing ears today. Let me just move around. Goblins are such fun to paint. They are a joy to paint. I could paint goblins all day long. All day long. What we're going to do, I'm going back into that original green and we're going to fill in that ear quickly. There we are. Right, I think there's one more to do. This one. Yes. Renegade Shank turns up towards the end again. There's nothing like having a moderator for the channel that turns up 5 minutes before it ends because he's special. Okay, and once again, I'm repeating myself, but it's a great way to learn. Top of the nose, top of the ears. This is an absolutely beautiful one. The archers are my favourites. I mean, look at that. You've even got he's even got a little arrow. You don't often find the miniatures that have the actual arrows. It's normally they'll be holding a bow, but there won't be an arrow actually on the miniature. So these are really cool to have those added. Because it's this hard plastic as well, it's a lot stronger than what we're used to. So they're able to get away with keeping these on there and having more detail added, because you've got less chance of the miniature snapping. It's not that brittle plastic that you can be used to. There we are. So that's our little ears done. That's the basic skin of our goblins. And as you can see, it makes all the difference. And because we've got that brown undercoat, it really does help. So what I'm going to do now is, I think we've got, what, 10 minutes left? Let's have a little quick look. Yeah, we got 10 minutes left. That was a really fast hour. That was a really, really fast hour. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show you how I do my how I do my metal, my new metal. Hello, Brian. How are you? Nice to see you. Now, what I've been doing for years is, for metal areas, I've been painting my metal area. Let me find a miniature that's actually got some metal on it. There we go. Not that one. Not that one. That's that one. There we go. We'll work on this little sword here. This little cleaver sword. What I normally do is I'll be painting my cleaver with silver, and then I'd go over with a black ink wash. But what I'm finding is it's easier to go over the actual metal area first with gunmetal. So what I'm going to do is quickly show you what I'm talking about. It's almost the same principle, but because we're starting with a darker initial colour, it actually works better for when you highlight the actual sword with a lighter colour. It might not seem very important, but to me it made a huge difference, and I just think it works really well, because normally when you think of gunmetal, the last thing you think about using it on is fantasy miniatures. Gunmetal, I always thought, yeah, use it on tanks and stormtrooper blasters, you know, but I never really thought about using gunmetal on fantasy miniatures because gunmetal. So what I'm going to do is I'll just quickly go over there. So you've got a lovely dark silver there going on, and that works really nicely. So let's carry on with these ones, because we're just trying to get it to dry so I can show you the rest. And again, we'll just go over the metal areas very fast and simple. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, you can have some there. Boom, 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 boom. What I'm trying to say anyway is gunmetal really works super well for your metal areas as your primer coat for metal. So all I'm doing is adding it to the metal areas that I want to start off with. It just gives a nice dark shiny effect to all the metal areas, and you'll see what I do in a second. Very simple, but it does make a huge difference, I found, to how the metal looks, because normally, like I say, I would be using silver. I'd use a black ink wash, and then I'd go over with a silver again just to highlight. But by using the gunmetal and then having like a black ink wash and then using a light silver highlight, it makes it really stand out much more, and it really works well for that miniature. Okay, you dry it. That's my biggest problem with painting miniatures, is things don't dry fast enough for the speed I paint. I didn't hear her sneezing. Claire's like collapsed in the lounge. I wouldn't hear her. Okay. It's drying nicely. What I'm going to do is, if I can find my black ink wash, I'll quickly add my black ink wash. If I can find it. Blah, 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 blah. Got a little bit of, I got a little bit of Nuln Oil here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just using an ordinary brush. And what we're going to do is just go over that part that I've just painted. It's a little bit tacky, but I think we can get away with it. And we'll just go over that. Boom, boom, boom. It's just a tiny little bit of black, and that'll just pick out all the little areas. Tiny little black. This will pick out all the chips and everything in that piece of metal. Now we'll just leave that dry, making sure there's no pooling of the ink. Very delicate. There we go. Now hopefully that will dry in the next 5 seconds. And we'll do all the other parts here. Boom, boom, boom. Let the black go into all the recesses, making sure it's not pooling. There we go. And the same on the other side. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And this one. This is why I have to do kind of 5-minute miniatures at a time, because otherwise all I'd be doing is waiting for paint to dry, and nobody wants to wait for paint to dry. We just want to paint our minis. So last one. No, that's done. So that's our ink on. Wash my brush. And now we shall just wait a little bit longer, just making sure there's no ink there. Just waiting for it to dry. So what I'm going to use now is we have a very nice silver. Now what I like to use for my silver is this is Model Air. This is airbrush paint, but it's really good for acrylics as well. So all I'm going to do is add this to my palette, just a tiny little bit, and it's a very, very fine silver color. And because we have now got that beautiful dark shade going on all our minis, on all our swords, well, I mean, we've got that metal effect, we've got that dirty effect. And let me just take a little bit. See if we can dry this off a little bit of a little. Just take a little bit off here. There we are. Now what you can do in the house is you'll have more time, so you can let it dry completely and fully. Now as you can see, that's ready. All we need to do now is just add that silver, and this is just the edging on our shields, on our swords, and our helmets. And it's such a simple thing to do, but it makes such a difference. Now all we do is we go on an angle and we just highlight the edge of the sword, and this gives us like a sharp edge to the sword. And because we've got that nice dark rich black metal, you're getting an edge, an instant edge to the sword, and it just works really, really well. I just think it's a very nice, quick and easy thing to do, to add a little bit more to your miniatures. I mean, I am painting my miniatures to tabletop standard for gaming, so I mean, I'm not doing this to a showcase standard. I'm just getting them ready for my tabletop games. But just by adding that to the sword, it adds another reflection, and it just works really well, and I think it looks fantastic. So you've got that nice dark effect, and then you've got the sharp edges, you know, maybe where the goblin has ground the sword to make it sharp, you know. And we'll do the same on the next one. There we are, just on the sides. And it just gives another reflection to our spears. So we're just adding that. There you go. And it's all just simple little things. Again, we're using that light source, so it's shining down on the miniature, and it's making all that metal shine up. So all we've done there, we've gone with a dark gunmetal to begin with, a little black ink wash to bring out our shades, and then we've just gone over with a silver highlight just to make that sword tip look really nice. Yes. And there we are. That's about all we can do for today. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Have you got any questions before I say goodnight to every single one of you? Are you all sending me hearts? Are you all sending me hearts? I hope you enjoyed that show. This is my first Mantic Games show, and again, I'll give a huge shout out to Mantic Games for sending me these amazing miniatures. It really is absolutely beautiful and lovely, and it's so nice to have some support by some of these bigger companies. So there we are. Loads and loads of love to you all.